"You signed under the wrong name," the young woman whispered, eyes flicking toward the paperwork. I looked at her, steady. "No, I didn't." She blinked, flustered, reached for the forms again but paused. My name, Nora E. Whitfield, was neatly inked in blue just above the line for department head. Her hand hovered over it like she might erase me if she could. In my lap was the Mont Blanc pen Frank gave me when I retired, back when people still held doors for you, when your voice didn't disappear in meetings. He died 2 summers later. That pen's weight had steadied my hand ever since. Outside, the elevator dinged. I folded the contract, tucked it into my worn leather bag, and stood. My coat, a thick navy wool hem just brushing my boots, swayed softly against the linoleum. I moved slower than I used to, but not smaller. Through the glass wall, I could see her. Taylor. She was laughing with 2 other interns by the coffee machine, swinging her lanyard like a girl at recess. Her hair was flat-ironed within an inch of its life, blazer too tight across the shoulders. I remembered that blazer. I'd paid for it. Macy's, fall sale. Last Thursday, at Thanksgiving, she'd called me a burden. Not to my face. She told my sister, knowing it would get back to me. She's just tired and clumsy now. She needs structure, not responsibility. I smiled when I heard it. Smiled so hard my jaw ached all the way home. Today, I was her new structure. A man walked past, holding a brass nameplate still in shrink wrap. I caught the glint as he turned the corner toward the 3rd floor. Nora E. Whitfield, Director, Operations Strategy. They'd just finished replacing her boss. She hadn't seen it yet, but she was about to. The chair sighed beneath me as I settled in. Faux leather, stiff with newness, nothing like the creaky one I had at home. The desk was bare except for a company laptop, a sleek glass paperweight, and 1 framed quote left behind by my predecessor. "Move fast. Break things." I turned it to face the wall. From my bag, I pulled out a small silver frame. Frank and me, Lake Huron behind us, the wind making a mess of my hair. His arm around my shoulder, sun in his eyes. I set it beside the monitor. No fanfare, just steadiness. The air in the office still carried something floral, synthetic. Taylor's perfume. She must have been in here before the nameplate went up. Probably touching the armrests, spinning the chair, playing pretend. I could still hear her voice that afternoon at the grocery store. "Oh my God, Aunt Nora, please don't write a check. People are staring." She was 24. I was paying. That shaky grandma script? Embarrassing. She laughed, loud enough for the cashier to hear. I laughed too, and tucked the checkbook away. Downstairs, the elevator chimed. A burst of voices, one louder than the rest. Taylor. No way. Someone put Grandma's name on the office door. Silence. My hand rested lightly on the desk edge. I didn't rise. Her steps echoed in the hallway, quick, uncertain. Then, there she was. She stopped short in the doorway, her mouth parting. "Aunt Nora?" I gestured toward the visitor badge on the edge of the desk. "Have a seat," I said, voice smooth as poured syrup. "We have a busy morning, Ms. Whitfield." Taylor didn't sit. Not right away. Her eyes darted around the office like the walls might offer some clue she'd missed. "Is this a mentoring thing?" she asked finally, laughing once, brittle. "Like shadowing? HR didn't say." "I'm sure they didn't," I said, sliding the folder toward her. She looked down, read the label, hesitated. Employee Integration, Strategic Ops. Inside, a 12-week schedule, color-coded, with her name highlighted at the top, her responsibilities, her timelines, her supervisor, me. Taylor sat. Slowly, her fingers fluttered over the edge of the folder, then pulled back like it might burn her. I don't understand." I folded my hands neatly on the desk. "You're part of a new rotational cohort," I said, "selected for immersive strategy training under direct oversight." Taylor swallowed. Her blouse had sweat lines under the arms now, small but visible. There was a time she came to me for advice. She'd borrowed my pearls once for her first real interview, swore she'd return them. She never did. Today I wore the matching bracelet, small freshwater drops, cool against my wrist. I didn't mention it, just adjusted my sleeve so the soft clink would reach her. She stared at the schedule like it might rearrange itself. This has to be some kind of mistake. You're retired. Was, I corrected. A silence stretched between us, tight as piano wire. Then she whispered, "Are you here to punish me?" I didn't answer at first, just leaned forward, tapped one pale pink page in the packet. Her first task. "No," I said, eyes locked on hers. "I'm here to see if you can read." I watched her go, heels clicking too fast for control, folder half tucked under one arm. She didn't look back. The door clicked shut. I exhaled. Slow, quiet, the kind of breath that trembles at the edges when no one's around to see. The desk's bottom drawer groaned as I opened it. Inside, a small bundle of yellowed notes, bound with an old black ribbon. Frank's handwriting, crisp and angled, stared back at me. He used to slip them into my lunch bag when I still ran the finance division at Kellerton. The top one read, "Don't show them the storm. Let them think you planted the rain." I smiled, just a little. That line had kept me upright more times than I could count. My fingers traced the edge of the paper, then tucked it into the corner of the corkboard by the monitor. I'd need it there. Taylor's first assignment was waiting in the shared drive, an audit of legacy performance reviews. Not glamorous, but revealing. She'd need to sort through inconsistencies and interview staff she'd barely met. One name I underlined twice, Miriam Lynn. Last year at a Christmas party, Taylor had laughed about Miriam's stutter, called her glitch girl. Thought I hadn't heard. I heard everything. I drafted the internal email, CC'd the right team leads, included Taylor's name at the top of the contributor list. No footnotes, no disclaimers. As I clicked send, a soft ding echoed in the office. New message. Subject, CEO briefing. Welcome, Ann Whitfield. Sender, Daniel Blake meeting scheduled. Today, 3:30 p.m., private. I leaned back in my chair, adjusted the silver frame beside me. So, the game begins higher up the ladder, too. The carpet on the executive floor muffled my steps, but not the silence that followed me. At the reception desk, the young man glanced up. His eyes flickered, surprise, then courtesy. I gave him my name. He didn't ask for ID. Daniel Blake's office was just beyond a glass partition, etched with the company's original mission statement. It smelled faintly of cedar and lemon polish. He stood when I entered. Tall, mid-50s, trim suit, hands calloused like someone who used to work with them. Not anymore. "Nora," he said. "Thanks for coming up." I shook his hand, firm, unapologetic. We exchanged 2 minutes of small talk. Phoenix weather, fourth quarter projections, the espresso machine that never worked. Then he dropped the smile. "There are eyes on this placement," he said. I nodded once. I'd be concerned if there weren't. He folded his hands. "You're not what they expected." "I rarely am." Blake let out a breath, not quite a laugh. "Some board members think this is ceremonial, that you're a placeholder while we transition culture." I leaned in. "I've never done ceremonial, and your last director left under pending review. I assume you'd prefer someone with a record of cleanup." That got his attention. I recited 3 departmental recovery metrics from my last role. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he glanced at a photo on his shelf. Him, decades younger, shaking hands with Frank. "He trained me once," Blake said. "Ran a practicum when I was green. Taught me everything I thought I knew about losses." I looked at the photo. Frank's hand on his shoulder, steady. Blake nodded. "Let's see if you've still got the touch." As I left, the elevator doors opened across the hall. Taylor stepped out, papers in hand, her face pale and set. She'd just come from the team briefing. Her name was first on the audit list. She opened her mouth, closed it, and I kept walking. She knocked this time, 3 soft raps, followed by the quick shuffle of heels. I didn't look up. Come in. Taylor entered, arms folded, face tight. The team thinks the audit's a punishment. They're saying I've been, volunteered. I set my pen down. You've been assigned, I said. Volunteering implies you had a choice. She stared, jaw flexing. Is this personal? No, I said calmly. It's structural. I turned the monitor toward her, highlighted segments of outdated evaluations, unexplained rating gaps, employee comments flagged for review. Half the team's metrics haven't been updated in 18 months, I said. We needed someone new, someone no one would expect to carry water. Taylor's mouth twitched. That's flattering, she said, voice flat. I let the pause settle before answering. It's functional. She stepped closer, planted her hands on the edge of the desk. Why are you really here, Aunt Nora? I looked at her. Because I've been invisible long enough. That landed. Her breath caught, but she masked it quickly. I remembered her graduation, sat in the back row. Her father's third wife gave a speech. I was left off the program. She never looked for me in the crowd. Taylor shifted, suddenly unsure. You didn't have to. I opened the drawer and handed her a small envelope, sealed with a red tab. She frowned. What's this? Confidential, I said. Performance debrief. Her fingers curled around it slowly. I haven't submitted anything yet. I met her gaze. I know. Taylor left without a word. The envelope was still in her hand, unopened. 10 minutes later, I saw her badge swipe into HR's wing. Fast, erratic. I turned back to the screen. Performance data glowed coldly in neat columns, missed evaluations, manager overrides, suspiciously identical score blocks. Too many centered on her department. One entry snagged my eye. Employee, Miriam Lynn. Flag, anonymous harassment report. Status, unresolved. Reviewer reassigned. Date, 9 months ago. I picked up the phone. Miriam answered on the third ring, her voice quiet. Lynn speaking. Miriam, this is Nora Whitfield. I'd like to speak with you in confidence, today if possible. A long pause. Then, I'll come up. While I waited, I opened the side drawer and pulled out a worn black notebook. Frank's old habit. Field notes, he called them. I'd started keeping my own after he passed. The pages were lined with hand-drawn org charts, marginalia, and a phrase I'd written years ago in all caps. Power reveals character, especially in small rooms. There was a knock. Miriam entered, posture tight, clutching a canvas bag. Her blouse was buttoned too high, her eyes wary. Thank you for coming, I said gently. Tea? She shook her head, sat on the edge of the chair like it might bite. I've reviewed last year's reports, I began, including the flag on your file. Miriam flinched. It was nothing. I mean, it's fine now. I met her gaze. Did Taylor call you glitch girl in front of staff? Her lips parted. A tremble. She blinked hard. Yes, she whispered. I set a small digital recorder on the table. You tell your story. I'll take care of the rest. Miriam stared at it, then reached into her own bag and pulled out a recorder of her own. She pressed play. The audio crackled at first. Just the hum of the office HVAC, a few chairs scraping. Then the voices came in. Okay, let's move on, someone said. Taylor's voice cut through, bright, sharp. Miriam, do you have the update? Or should we wait for your buffering to finish? A pause. Then louder. Just spit it out, glitch girl. Laughter. Not everyone, but enough. A man's chuckle, someone muttering, Come on, Tay. Then silence. Thick, shaming silence. The recording clicked off. Miriam didn't move. Her hands twisted the hem of her sleeve, eyes fixed on the floor. I reached across the desk and gently turned off the recorder. Thank you, I said softly. That took guts. She swallowed. I thought I was the only one keeping score. I met her eyes. You weren't. You just thought we all stopped playing. Miriam stood, straighter now. Not whole, but steadier. She nodded once, then left without another word. I locked the recording in my cabinet, alongside the sealed envelope from earlier. Pulled up the internal system and began the report. Every section labeled, every incident cited, cross-referenced, documented. As I uploaded the case file, my phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number, one message. Don't trust HR. Taylor. I stared at the screen. So, she'd found something. But was it a warning? Or a threat? I didn't respond to the message. Not yet. Instead, I opened the internal access log and typed in Taylor's name. Her personnel file had been pulled 17 minutes before her HR visit. Not by HR, by payroll. I printed the log, pinned it to the corkboard with a brass tack just beneath Frank's quote. Let them think you planted the rain. Something wasn't adding up. I picked up the phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. Sheila Brower, came the voice, crisp, no nonsense. Sheila, Nora Whitfield. A pause, then a smile in her tone. I heard you were back. I need to ask something off the record. Then ask it like it's on, she said, so I can answer without lying. I did. She didn't hesitate. There's an audit underway, internal. On me? On your department. Technically, on HR favoritism patterns tied to low-level hires. You're not the problem, Nora, but your presence triggered scrutiny. Someone flagged your niece's onboarding as suspicious. She listed me? Not as family, as distant acquaintance. That's a disclosure error. Of course it was. After we hung up, I checked my inbox again. A forwarded chain had landed. From legal, Taylor's onboarding packet. Her own handwriting, calling me a former neighbor and mentor. I printed it, stapled it to the file. Outside, the light was shifting. Late afternoon laid long shadows across the glass. I turned toward the window and stopped. Across the street, near the parking deck, Taylor stood on the sidewalk, phone in hand, looking up, directly at my office, watching. I didn't move, just reached up, turned the blinds closed, let the world go back to shadow. At my desk, I opened the daily task planner and began stitching tomorrow's agenda. Each item had a purpose. Taylor would sit down with Miriam at 10, conduct a peer review with Lyle at 11:15, submit recorded feedback for compliance training. By 2, all observable, all traceable. If she cracked, she'd crack in full view. Midway through, the internal chat pinged. No sender, just one line. Nice view from the top. Watch your back. Then, deleted. I pulled the server trace, routed through a long deactivated contractor account. No name, no device. I filed it under Security Anomalies, locked my screen, and went home. At the apartment, I didn't turn on the TV. Instead, I pulled a step stool from the pantry and reached up to the top shelf. Behind the nutmeg tin and a bottle of unopened sherry, I found it, my old recipe box. Tucked under faded index cards was a folded note. Taylor's handwriting. Age 11. Aunt Nora. I hope I'm like you when I grow up. Love, Tay. The ink was sun-faded, but not enough to soften the words. I sat at the kitchen table, the note between my fingers, as the phone buzzed again. Calendar alert. Eligibility review. Conflict disclosure. Tomorrow, 9:00 a.m. Host, HR compliance. No attachments, just the clock. The compliance room smelled like plastic and old air. One too bright light overhead. A table big enough for 8, but only 3 chairs were filled. Jenna Holt from HR sat stiffly across from me. Next to her, Carl Edmonds, legal liaison, mid-40s, fond of tie clips and loopholes. Carl smiled like someone settling in for a chess match. Nora, he began, thanks for being here. This is a routine inquiry related to disclosure accuracy. Jenna slid a paper toward me. Taylor's onboarding form. I didn't look down. She's my niece, I said. By blood. Her mother is my sister. Jenna shifted. Carl didn't blink. If that's the case, he said, her onboarding contains a critical omission. She named you as a non-relative mentor. I nodded once. Then you'll need to revisit her eligibility, not mine. Carl tapped his pen. We're also reviewing your role in her assignment rotation. Some might see it as targeted. I met his gaze. She was assigned, and she earned the consequences. Jenna leaned in. Would you consider recusing yourself from direct oversight? I reached into my bag, set 2 folders on the table. 1. Audit inconsistencies with Taylor's initials on 10 unverified forms. 2. Peer review notes, anonymous but pointed. Timestamps included. I'll recuse myself, I said, when I finished cleaning up her mess. Carl cleared his throat. No one spoke after that. The meeting adjourned with handshakes that felt like polite threats. Outside in the hallway, Taylor stood waiting. She looked up, eyes sharp, jaw set. I opened my mouth, then closed it, and kept walking. I didn't turn the computer on. Instead, I opened the black notebook and flipped to a dog-eared page, one I hadn't touched in months. At the top, what if it's her? I'd started it the day I saw her name on the intern shortlist. Beneath it, a list of steps. Quiet steps. Pull policy 4.17 on internal kinship disclosures. Call Sheila B. if escalation required. Document all supervisory decisions. Back up all files offline. Don't lose the dignity battle. The last one was underlined twice. Just before noon, Taylor sent a meeting request. Location, Glass Room B, 3rd floor. Time, 12:30. Topic, clarification. I accepted. She arrived 7 minutes late. Her blazer was wrinkled, and she was holding her phone like a shield. You're trying to ruin me, she said flatly. You've been setting traps since I got here. I didn't answer. I mean, performance debriefs before I even submit work? Audits with people I've barely met? You want me gone. I reached into my bag, pulled out a small velvet pouch, opened it, took out a gold necklace, thin, tarnished at the clasp. She'd given it to me when she was 15, handmade, from a mall kiosk. She was so proud. I placed it gently on the table. If you're going to pretend I'm not family, I said, then return this. She stared. The words died in her throat. Her hands trembled. A knock at the glass. Jenna Holt stood there, pale and urgent. We need you both downstairs, now. The hallway was long and too quiet. Jenna didn't say a word as she led us down. Taylor walked beside me, shoulders tight, breath sharp. We stopped in front of a door marked C-112, Legal Intake. I'd never been down this wing. Inside, a rectangular table, frosted windows. No clock. Carl was there. So was Renee Tran, risk management, and Miriam. Miriam didn't look at me. She didn't have to. This isn't a formal hearing, Jenna began, but it may lead to one. Taylor sat, hands clasped, knuckles white. Renee opened a folder, tapped a recorder. The room filled with Taylor's voice. Just spit it out, glitch girl. A laugh, a chair shuffle. The clip ended. Taylor leaned forward. It was a joke, taken out of... Miriam's voice clear. You told them to ignore my reports. That's in my inbox. Taylor froze. Carl looked over his glasses. Do you wish to respond? Taylor glanced at me, her mouth opened, closed. I need a lawyer, she said. Silence again, this time heavier. Jenna nodded slowly. Then we'll adjourn your portion here. Taylor stood. Her legs shook slightly. She left without a word. Once the door clicked shut, Carl turned. His voice shifted. Nora, we have enough to proceed on our end, but this goes beyond HR now. A pause. Do you wish to make a formal complaint? I looked at Miriam, then back at Carl, and I opened my mouth to finally speak. I chose the plain form. No commentary, just facts, date, time, incident description, supporting materials, witnesses, submitted. No one needed my feelings, just the truth. Afterward, in the hallway, Miriam stood by the vending machine. She didn't speak, just nodded once as I passed. I returned it. Quiet understanding, a contract of sorts. In my office, I placed the gold necklace back into the velvet pouch, opened the side drawer, set it down gently, closed it without a sound. My laptop chimed. Calendar alert, depth-wide briefing. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock a.m. Host, Daniel Blake. Status, mandatory. No topic listed. The next morning, I arrived early. The room was colder than usual. Someone had overdone the AC. One by one, the team filtered in. Voices low, eyes flicking between screens and doorways. Daniel entered last, clipboard in hand. No smile. "Nora Whitfield," he said. "Please join me at the front." I stood, walked slowly. No reaction, just movement. "This department," he said to the room, "is undergoing review. Effective immediately. Ms. Whitfield will lead an independent task force to evaluate non-compliance in talent development and culture reporting structures." Murmurs. It was a promotion and a reassignment. Taylor sat near the back, frozen. Daniel added, "Her integrity has been unflinching." As I turned to address the room, I noticed a small envelope placed on the new podium. No name, no label. Inside, a photo. Frank, smiling, shaking hands, not with Daniel. With someone else, someone I didn't recognize. The photo stayed with me all day. Frank, calm, smiling, the weight of years in his eyes, shaking hands with a man I didn't recognize. Navy suit, wedding band, a room with paneled wood and a brass clock ticking behind them. No timestamp, no caption, just questions. I slid it into my notebook beside the phrase I'd written months ago. Power reveals character. By noon, Miriam flagged Taylor's absence from 2 scheduled audit sessions. "She never showed," she said softly. "Didn't reschedule, just vanished." I logged the misses, no comment. Just before 2, my line lit up. "Sheila Brower," came the voice. "We need to talk." I closed my door. "There's a secondary audit opening," she said. "Not just your niece." "Then who?" "Blake, the CEO." I didn't speak. "There's chatter about an old consultancy called Paramount Sourcing. It was used back in the day to bury employee reports before they hit formal channels." The name sparked. Frank had mentioned it once, after a long meeting, his face tight. "He said they were bad news," I murmured. Sheila exhaled. "Check your inbox." The call ended. A single file waited. Confidential memo, 2003, internal use only. Redacted lines, scattered dates, but 2 names still clear, Frank Whitfield and the man in the photo. I laid the memo beside the photo, same tie, same stance, same outdated brass clock in the background. The memo mentioned a whistleblower, complaint withdrawn without explanation. All tied to a vendor flagged only once, Paramount Sourcing. The date? October 2003. The same month Frank told me he needed space to think. He called it a consulting retreat. He never said more. I checked the closet safe that night, pulled out the old keyring, Frank's, worn smooth at the tips. 1 key still labeled Stratford 18. The storage unit was just outside town. Cold concrete, air thick with the smell of dry paper and wood. I found the right box, tucked beneath old expense ledgers and tax returns. Sourcing, third parties. Sharpied in Frank's hand. At the bottom, a single envelope. No name, no return. Inside, a grainy black and white printout, transcript style. Voice 1, FW. Voice 2, redacted, FW. We can't suppress internal reporting. That's not how integrity works. Other voice. We'll handle it. Handle it. The words felt like ash in my throat. As I stepped out into the evening air, my phone buzzed. Voicemail. Taylor's voice. Quiet. Unsteady. I found it. Nothing else. Just that. I played the message 3 times that night. I found it. No follow-up, No location, just those words. I texted her. "What did you find? Where are you?" Nothing. The transcript sat on my lap like a stone, the words etched deep. "We'll handle it." At dawn, I arrived early. Taylor was already there, waiting. She stood beside my office door, manila folder in hand, face pale and sleepless. Without speaking, she handed it over. Inside, printed emails, dozens, forwarded from an admin account. Each one was worse than the last. Complaint reroutes, internal delays, language scrubbed to avoid escalation. Some bore initials, FW, but not in action. In CC lines, silent, watching. "I didn't know," Taylor said softly. "I thought he was part of it. I think they used him." I looked at her, hard. She didn't flinch. The edges around her arrogance had softened, replaced by something older. Guilt. Shame. "There's more," she said. "But it's not under Blake's login. It's hidden in a different archive. Obscured routing." "Whose account?" I asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "It was my mom's." I stared at her. "My sister?" Taylor nodded. "The credentials were in a jewelry pouch, tucked in one of her old boxes, top of the attic." We sat in silence. The blinds split the light into hard lines across the desk. "She didn't even work here," I said. "She did. Briefly. Contract role in legal 20 years ago. I looked it up." Of course. Right when Frank's name began vanishing from departmental records. Taylor handed over the old password list. Curled edges, faded ink, her mother's neat cursive. I typed in the login, waited. The archive loaded. It wasn't just emails. It was a vault. Buried complaints, NDAs, one draft email, unsent. 2, Frank Whitfield. Subject, no good options. "They want you to take the fall. If you stay quiet, they'll preserve your name." My hands trembled on the mouse. Taylor leaned in. She knew. She knew everything. She tried to protect him. We scrolled to the final file. Encrypted. No file name, just a timestamp. Auntie 16, 2003. I stared at the screen. "Can we open it?" Taylor asked. "Not without the key." She looked at me. "Then we find it." We started at the apartment, drawer by drawer, notebook by notebook. Frank had once hidden passwords in old recipe cards, so we checked those too. Nothing. Then Taylor paused. "He had a safety deposit box," she said slowly. "Told me once, for just-in-case things. I thought it was just war bonds." The bank was 2 neighborhoods away. Quiet branch, old carpeting. I brought the death certificate. The original key was still on Frank's old chain. The clerk disappeared, then returned with a box small enough to fit in both palms. Inside, a single 3.5 floppy disk, labeled in his handwriting. FW, October 2003, and a torn page from a calendar. On it, scrawled in thick black ink, "In silence, truth holds." We found a USB-compatible disk reader from a tech resale shop, drove straight to my office. At my desk, I slid the disk in. The file loaded, encrypted. Passphrase? The screen blinked. I typed, "In silence, truth holds." The screen unlocked. One file, untitled, transcript. I opened it. Frank's voice, my sister's, Blake's. A closed-door meeting, planning to reroute complaints. Frank objected, fought. The last line chilled me. Then, this meeting never happened. The screen flickered. Taylor gasped. The file began deleting itself. I yanked the USB cord. The screen froze. File deletion, 71%. "Pull the power," I said. Taylor did. The monitor blinked black. We worked in near dark, extracting what we could from the frozen cache. Not all survived, but enough did. Timestamps, signature headers, transcribed lines with names, Blake, my sister, legal liaisons long since gone, And Frank's voice, firm, refusing. We saved 3 backups, encrypted them, locked one in the office safe, one in Taylor's hands, one in the cloud, hidden under metadata no one would search. The room was still. Taylor stood by the window, arms crossed, spine straight. "I was wrong," she said finally. "You were never the burden." I watched her. "You weren't either," I said. "Not until you gave up on the truth." She didn't look away this time. That night, my phone rang. "Sheila Brower," came the voice. "Risk management's moving first thing. We need you in by 6:30. Bring everything." "I'll be there." At 6:10 a.m., I stood outside the building. Fog hung low over the parking lot. A janitor spotted me. "Building's closed. Power issue." I held up my badge. "I have clearance." He shrugged. "Let me in." I walked the corridor. My door was ajar. Inside, emptiness. Files gone, shelves cleared, the desk bare, every trace erased. The silence in my office was heavier than noise. I stood still. Not grief, not rage, clarity. This wasn't panic, it was precision. Someone had moved first. I opened the side drawer. Empty. Frank's notebook. Gone. But near the floor, wedged beneath the panel lip, a sliver of paper caught the light. Torn. If it disappears, it was never yours. If it survives, it's yours to finish. His handwriting. I folded it, tucked it into my coat, called Taylor. "Still got it," she said. "The drive's safe." We met at Sheila's off-site. She was already waiting. Damp hair, 2 coffees. "Someone torched the record chain," she said. No preamble. I handed over the data. She nodded. "Then we go analog." We printed everything. 3 copies. Bound. Sealed. 1 to risk. 1 to legal. Sheila kept the 3rd. "Media backup," she said. "In case they try spin." I nodded. We were past fear now. Back in my office, what was left of it, my laptop pinged. New message. Private domain. No name. Just. Subject. FW owed the truth. Attachment. Affidavit. Signed. From the man in the photo. The affidavit wasn't long, but it didn't need to be. Leonard March, former external counsel. Dated last week. Frank Whitfield objected to the suppression policy. He refused severance. I was instructed to erase his name from future documentation. I complied. I regret that compliance. I am prepared to testify under oath. No qualifiers, no spin. I printed 3 copies. 1 for Sheila, 1 for Risk, 1 locked in my car's glove box beside Frank's last set of keys. Taylor, quiet now, took the floppy and delivered it to legal records herself. They logged it. Chain of custody, timestamp, file ID, official now. At 11:47 a.m., the company-wide ping came through. From Daniel Blake. Subject: Legacy integrity issues. COM protocol update. All inquiries or commentary regarding legacy documentation or historical compliance must be routed through the CEO's office. Effective immediately. Internal handling only. Sheila read it, slammed her coffee down. "He's trying to smother it." I looked at Taylor. "It's time." She nodded. We walked together to the back wing of Risk, a small studio used for internal training and culture docs. A single camera waited. Tripod. Red light off. I sat, adjusted my collar. The light blinked red. "My name is Nora Whitfield," I began, "and this is what they buried." The camera didn't blink, and neither did I. I told them everything. Frank's refusal, the silencing, the contract her mother signed, Blake's cleanup. I named every name. Calm, measured. Taylor went next. She didn't cry. She admitted the shortcuts, the silence, the pride. Said, "I thought I was building a career. I was just stacking shadows." Sheila watched from behind the lens. When we were done, she nodded once and started processing. Light audio edits, no trimming. Then she sent the files to 3 places. Legal oversight, the board's ethics committee, A whistleblower portal with verified federal routing. We waited. That night, my phone lit up. Unknown number. One line. Well played. No name, no trace. By morning, the company homepage was gone, replaced with a plain white screen. Message from the board chair. We have initiated a full executive review. Staff will be updated hourly. Inside, Blake's door was sealed. Security outside. Phones silent. Taylor and I sat across the street at a cafe, watching. She asked, "Do you think this is it?" I stirred my coffee. "No, it's the door." My phone buzzed again. This time, a name I knew. Leonard March, ready to speak. Leonard didn't hesitate. He stood behind a podium, plain blue backdrop, and told the world what he did. "I was asked to erase Frank Whitfield," he said. "I complied. I regret it. He stood for integrity when we didn't." The stream went viral within 90 minutes. By noon, Daniel Blake was gone. Resigned, no comments, escorted out the back. I watched it from my office, blinds drawn. Taylor stood near the window. Quiet. The building pulsed with voices, but none of them dared speak above a whisper. At 3:08 p.m., the board sent a company-wide message. Nora Whitfield has been named Interim Director of Compliance Reform. Below it, one sentence. She inherits the position once held by Frank Whitfield. I sat at the new desk, his old one, opened the top drawer. Inside, just a post-it. Fresh ink. Not gone, just quiet. Not his handwriting. Taylor's. She stood in the doorway. "We're not done," she said. "There are still people inside." I nodded. "Then we clean house." I turned to the window. Across the street, parked under a shade tree, a black SUV idled. Behind the tinted glass, my sister, watching. The boardroom smelled like antiseptic and distance. Eleanor Pitts, chairwoman, wore pearls and a guarded smile. "I support the audit," she said, "but we need clarity. From all parties." She didn't say it outright, but she meant my sister. "She was complicit," I said. "She was also legal," Eleanor replied. "Get her on record." I nodded. Later that evening, I approached the SUV. The window rolled down slowly. Inside, my sister. Same high cheekbones, same perfume I used to borrow as a teenager. She didn't speak right away. Neither did I. "You weren't supposed to find that," she said finally. "Then you shouldn't have hidden it in plain sight." She looked out toward the horizon. "He was too honest," she murmured. "Would have gone down either way. I just tried to soften the landing." "By erasing him?" She didn't answer. I handed her the pen. The form, legal witness affidavit, full statement, no revisions. She read it, signed it, slid it back. "He loved you," she said quietly. I took the form, folded it once, didn't reply. At the elevator, I paused. Let the weight settle, almost cried. Didn't. I handed Eleanor the signed statement. She read it in silence, then tucked it into the folder marked, "Final." "It's done," she said. "We move forward." Sheila began assembling teams, internal, external, anonymous tips rerouted for live review. Names surfaced, ones I hadn't expected, quiet players, long hidden. Taylor stepped up, took over early career development. She built a new pipeline, one where voice mattered, where no intern vanished beneath a title. Frank's photo sat on her shelf now, framed, respectful. I started walking different halls. Doors opened that once clicked shut when I approached. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like gravity. That Saturday, I visited Frank's grave. The autumn leaves had started to fall, soft and rust-red. I brought the photo, the one of him and Leonard, buried it under a small flat stone beside the marker. "I couldn't keep you clean," I said, but I kept the truth. As I stood, something caught my eye, a bundle of violets, fresh, tied with twine. Someone else had been here. By Monday, I was back at my desk. The window open, the air brisk. My phone buzzed. Message from Eleanor. Final votes in. You ready? I stared at the screen, typed, "Let's finish it." The boardroom smelled like polish and pressure. Glass walls, long shadows, rows of chairs filled, back straight. I stood at the head, no notes. I told them what happened, named names, mapped dates, spoke of Frank, not as a martyr, but as a man who refused to disappear. I ended with this. The truth costs more than silence, but it's the only clean debt. No one moved. Then Eleanor stood. Vote begins. Each member responded. Aye, aye, aye. Unanimous. The reforms passed. The suppression policy buried. I was named Director of Integrity Systems, permanent. When the room cleared, I stepped into the hallway alone. Taylor was waiting, 2 coffees in hand. "So what now?" she asked. I looked out over the city, watched the windows flicker with movement. "Now," I said, "we watch who runs." She reached into her coat, pulled out the gold necklace, placed it in my palm. "You never lost me," she said. I closed my fingers around it. It caught the light as I walked to the elevator. A glint, a memory, still mine.